Good afternoon, and thank you for joining the webinar. We have just a few housekeeping items to go through before we get started. You should see a control panel on your screen, and this is how you'll be able to minimize or maximize the presentation. Also, there is a Q&A button, and this is how you'll be able to submit questions to our presenters today. While we will wait to hold all questions until the end, you can submit questions throughout the presentation. This is also a way that you can chat with us if you have any technical difficulties. As a reminder, after the webinar, all registrants will receive the on-demand version of this presentation, so feel free to share it with colleagues or go back and watch the presentation again. So I wanted to introduce our two presenters today. First, we have Kyle Holitz, Senior Solution Consultant at Nuvolo. Kyle's been working in the healthcare technology management community for a number of years and has been helping health systems across the country modernize their legacy CMMS solutions. We also have Jason Meister, Director of Technical Services at PartsSource. Jason improves process workflow and integrations for clinical engineering, HTM, and the hospital supply chain to deliver efficiency, standardization, and cost savings to the PartsSource Pro community. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to our presenters and Kyle.
Thank you very much for the intro, Sarah, and everyone online. Thank you for spending a little bit of time with us today. So in terms of an agenda, what we're planning on going over today is first, we've already handled intros, obviously. We're then going to touch on, why is integration important, right? Why does it matter to you guys? What kind of benefits can we as HTM technicians receive from these types of integrations? And then we're going to go straight into a demo of the PartsSource integration, within Nuvolo, and we'll hit on, the same user interface you guys are all used to seeing from the PartsSource platform, as well as, how that interacts with Nuvolo. And then, of course, we'll get into a little bit of Q&A. So just a little background before we get into, and I'd like to lay a little framework of how Nuvolo is built, right? I'm a technical advisor, so I like to just kind of lay this groundwork. So the first thing I like to mention, and as many of you know, Nuvolo is a proud partner and built on the Servicenow platform. So the benefit of that is it's not an integration, it's a scoped app on the platform, just like any other application that is sold from Servicenow, which many IT departments across the world are heavily utilizing. Why we enjoy this is because it's not an integration, right? We get to utilize all of the great components of Servicenow, like the high advanced availability, redundancy backup, the reporting engine, the service portal, right? Notifications, developer tools. And Nuvolo, as a purpose-built application on this platform, serving facilities, clinical engineering, and also cybersecurity needs of hospitals and facilities, we get to focus on the industry, right? We get to focus on building bulletproof applications that are built for you guys, right? So as regulations change, as Joint Commission, adds another clause or changes to 100% PM compliance like they did recently, we can build those into our application and not have to worry about, any sort of underlying network or background capabilities. So why do healthcare customers choose Nuvolo, right? And we're really born and bred in the healthcare industry, right? We have recently spread into facilities and some other areas, but we started out in healthcare around 3 or 4 years ago. Additionally, it's extremely flexible, right? I like to call it citizen development. People who don't have a heavy coding knowledge or background, we can configure on Nuvolo and on the Servicenow platform by using easy drag and drop interfaces and more of a click to configure type approach. We've also developed our own mobile application. So our mobile application can be downloaded from either the Android or iOS or Apple stores, and is available in both online and offline mode. The reporting capabilities of the tool are also very extensive. Every single table, every field throughout the platform can constantly be reported on in real time. And like I mentioned on the last slide, we're constantly innovating. We come out with 2 new releases a year, and of course, hot fixes and patches on an as-needed basis. Additionally, the single system of record is a major component for us, right? Our neighbors in the HTM departments, us in the HTM department, our neighbors in facilities and IT, we interact a lot. So instead of going through, very air-rich human processes like email and phone calls, we can utilize the platform to share process. Additionally, we're compliance ready, right? We have a number of out-of-the-box Joint Commission, DMV reports, environment of care reporting, and all of that is built in, so it can add value to your organization almost day one. And of course, lastly, we have an open API platform from Servicenow. So as long as third-party applications, and you'll see a number of them listed at the bottom of this slide, as long as they have some sort of usable integration interface, I haven't seen in my years working with ServiceNow any type of third-party application that can't be accomplished in one way or another. And I'm going to hand it over to Jason now.
Hey, thank you. So a quick little story about PartsSource. We were founded in 2001, and I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with PartsSource, but the growth and change of PartsSource is really what's interesting. We started out as a secondary hire-to-find parts supplier. We were someone that you called at the end of the day when you couldn't find a part anywhere, and we were very good at finding difficult-to-find parts. As we continued to find those parts and build our catalog, we realized if we can find those hard parts, we can probably find the easier-to-find parts as well. And as we continued to grow our network, we were able to establish relationships with the OEMs. We were able to bring all of this forward and deliver it in an online catalog. And really what that's allowed us to do is put a lot of best-in-class tools directly in the hands of technicians. It allows you to quickly go into our catalog, identify items with the part numbers that you know, see not only those OEM parts, but also see high-quality secondary options, and have a whole team of people working on the back end for you, both to source these items, manage quality, follow up on items, provide you information, and really be a go-to trusted resource for both secondary parts, but the majority of what we sell nowadays is OEM parts as well. So we really trim down the parts we sell. We take a very high stance on quality. And when you see an item inside our catalog, you can be certain that it is either of the best quality OEM or it is of equal quality coming from a secondary market. Anything we can't find, we will go out and source for you. So it's not just the 4+ million parts in our catalog, but it is also any additional part that you don't want to wait on hold or have somebody searching and looking for and finding. You have a team of people that can do that for you. And our website is available 24/7, 365 days a year. What that allows us to do is it allows us to offer a number of things. Our pro customers working inside an integrated solution can see up to a 95% reduction in order time. And that is a real procure-to-pay process that goes all the way from sourcing, identifying an item, all the way through receiving it into the system, invoices coming in, POs being cut, every aspect of the procure-to-pay process. And then while we're doing that, we're also providing a quality improvement over the industry average by over 6%. So that's not only that you're going to see 6 times better quality, but you're going to do it 95% faster. And on top of that, because we are able to leverage our size and our buying power, you're purchasing through PartsSource, but many of our pro customers have seen 6-figure or larger decreases in the overall spending. So you're getting the same parts from the manufacturers and vendors that you work from today, and we're able to deliver savings, we're able to deliver time savings, and you're going to get fewer failing parts coming out of the box. Now, the challenges of managing clinical assets over the years has been, there's a number of pieces and parts that have fallen through the cracks while we've worked very hard to make sure that the equipment is up and working well for the hospital. We've had a lack of actionable information, meaning that the information that goes into a clinical engineering CMMS is not of the same quality as you would expect. It's split and fragmented, where part and material information goes into an ERP as well as a CMMS, and that has made it very difficult for us to build a large repository of information to make changes off of. We've also had knowledge management. We have a lot of tribal knowledge. We have technicians and we have people inside the department that know where to order based solely off of years of experience. And when somebody new comes in, you're going to find that it's very hard to transfer that information. At the same time, you're going to have it very difficult across multiple technicians and even harder across multiple facilities as you can try to put in those best practices and ensure that those high quality sources and the lessons learned over time are being distributed and used equally. On top of that, you also have no system in place today to track your supplier's performance. If you wanted to know whether or not a vendor was doing a good job of delivering parts on time, if you wanted to know whether or not they were delivering very high quality parts all of the time, it is going to be very difficult for you to track all of those different pieces of information. And on top of that, the information that you have can often be anecdotal. A lot of the parts that are purchased inside clinical engineering are just not purchased frequently enough to build up any amount of knowledge to know whether or not that supplier truly can provide you a high quality part every time. Are you just getting lucky or are you just getting unlucky? This is information that without a large pool of data from many systems over a long period of time, you're just not going to be able to find them. And that really just brings us back to where is the progress, where is the change, where is the innovation, and that's why PartsSource and Nuvolo are such a great combination. What we're able to do is we're able to take the innovation and the catalog and the research and the knowledge that we're able to put in and tie it directly into the work order management system that you're using every single day. The goal here is to keep technicians working inside a work order, to make the CMMS an integral part of the procurement process, to ensure that only the best and highest quality parts are being procured, and they're happening and being procured as quickly as possible. This is going to give you better visibility on what you're actually spending. You'll be able to pull reports out of your CMMS and have high confidence that the part numbers, the prices that are entered in there are the actual part numbers and prices, so you can pull high quality, high level reports. You're also going to have better material management at that work order level. So you'll be able to understand what equipment is costing you more, what age does it start to cost you more? Is one facility doing a better job? Are there opportunities to save more? All of that information will now be in the CMMS. For a long time, inventory management inside clinical engineering has almost been non-existent. People order stuff, it sits at their desk. If you need more, you either have it or you order it again. Having procurement go through the CMMS gives you the ability to better control your inventory, have a real stock room, have a real understanding of what inventory is inside the system. And the black hole or lack of communication that comes inside clinical engineering's ordering process. You submit a request, you submit a requisition. The reality is that most of you don't get any updates until that part either does or does not arrive. Being able to drive this through PartsSource's platform not only gives direct email communications to the technicians, but in a world where when you want to know where a part is, you're able to check the work order. You're able to see a status. You're able to retrieve a tracking number. When someone asks you when something's going to be fixed, you know when those parts are going to arrive, and you can say that with a high level of confidence. So in wrapping up, an overview of what we're able to provide, there's a lot of benefits we're able to provide via integration. We're going to be able to improve the efficiency to give your technicians more time. The time that they spend waiting on hold, anybody inside your hospital can wait on hold. There's only a few people inside that building who can actually fix pieces of equipment. So how do we get them back to fixing equipment? How do we ensure that when you have a work order, that the material information being added to the work order is accurate? Not only are you saying what the actual repair was, but we know exactly what part number it is. And that part number is entered accurately every time. You're also going to have an accurate price for that item, so that when you want to pull reports to see what a repair is costing you or what a subset of equipment is costing you, you're able to pull those reports. You're also able to improve visibility to improve uptime, understand exactly what is breaking, understand when these parts are going to come back. And by tying everything into a high quality catalog where you're able to search and identify items, you're going to reduce risks of errors. You're going to make sure that by looking at an image, you are purchasing the correct part the first time, and that you aren't doing reorders, and that downtime is reduced, and you're able to move forward and hopefully deliver a higher quality service to the entire organization while providing a lot of information in your world so that you can make sure the organization knows what a great job you're doing. All right, so from here, we're going to go ahead and jump into the demo. I'm going to let Kyle jump back on. Kyle?
Yeah, thank you very much, Jason. Great overview, and we will get rolling here. So what we're looking at now on my screen is inside the actual Nuvolo application, right? So what you're viewing right now is just a very standard technician dashboard, right? And like I mentioned, one of the benefits is, there is no limit to what you can put in this dashboard. You can report on every table, every field, and these dashboards can be used by any role. So this one, what you're seeing on the screen is just a standard technician dashboard, a couple basic reports here, my open work orders, what's been unassigned, so on and so forth. But for the purpose of today's demo, I'm going to get right into the integration. So I'm going to go over to my favorites here and click on My CMs, or corrective maintenance, right? At this point, you're looking at just a standard list of work orders, right? So I know many of you are probably not using Nuvolo, and that's okay. But this list of work orders is just a queried list, no different than any other list of work orders that you're probably using in your system today. I'm going to click on this GE Signal work order here, and we're going to start looking through the integration. So relatively basic work order at the top of the screen here. And where the PartsSource integration actually lies is in this button on Launch PartsSource. right? And the system is very flexible. So if you don't want this button, right, next to update in your checklist items and saving the record, we can move it throughout the form, right, dependent on our client. So basically on this work order, top is very general, right? Who it's assigned to or assignment group, who it was reported by. You have some location information you can tie back to. And I'm going to scroll down to the bottom very quickly just to show a couple points here. So you can see down at the bottom, this work order is first of all covered under contract, but most importantly, you can see that there's no purchase order currently linked to this work order, nor is there any itemized cost, which is when we record parts and labor where that's kept. So what I'm going to do now is click on the Launch PartsSource button, which is going to push us into the PartsSource platform, right? And that does open another tab. And what you'll notice is, of course, that work order is still left untouched on the other end. So you don't have to swivel chair back and forth between any different experiences. So now what we're viewing, right, is the same experience that so many people love today and are used to working from. So I'm going to scroll down, and I think we're just going to order a part from GE today. And we're going to order a couple tubes since the work order short description was craft tubing. So I'm just going to use this first part here, view options. It's going to query the PartsSource platform for our best options. Then at this point, I'm just going to select 3 of these tubes. Click Add to Cart. Oops, I forgot my facility, so it gives me a little message here, which is helpful, right? So I select my facility, and I add to my cart.
So I think it's really important to jump in and say that when we're looking inside the PartsSource catalog, you see how easy and quick it was for Kyle to immediately jump in and identify a part. If you know a part number, you can search by it. You'll also notice that in the upper right-hand corner, there's always the trouble finding your part button. Inside the catalog, we have lots of parts, there's lots of items, but the reality is that clinical engineering is a very unique place in the hospital where you buy a lot of unique items, things that you may buy once or twice a year. The numbers that we see is actually that 70 to 80% of the SKUs ordered by clinical engineering will only be purchased once to twice a year. So you're buying a lot of really unique items and you never know if you're going to buy them again. We try to have as many of these items inside the catalog and as easy to find as possible. But there's a chance you're not going to know the name, you're not going to know the part number. You're going to be able to drill down, but you just don't see the item you're looking for. You can always click trouble finding your part, and it'll bring up a box where you can quickly and efficiently tell us what you're looking for. We'll wait on hold for you, and then on average, under an hour, you're going to get a response back from PartsSource letting you know what that quote looks like, and you'll be able to purchase it the exact same way you would anything else. Now, a really nice feature is this information that is getting pumped directly into this screen that you see right here. You see that we automatically are populating an asset ID, a serial number, a work order number. Not only can these be used in the reporting, but at the same time, by capturing that asset ID, it allows PartsSource to not only manage the part, but manage that part warranty as well. So if anybody in your department goes to purchase this part while that item is still under warranty, rather than allowing them to add it to the shopping cart, it's going to pop up a window, let them know that that part's still under warranty, and allow them to automatically trigger a warranty exchange. So you're going to have a full order history of everything that has been purchased through PartsSource that you can easily dive into and find. That same information will be replicated inside Nuvolo. And we're going to go an extra step and actually manage part level warranties for you. You won't have to have technicians looking into order history, seeing when it was ordered from, what its warranty looked like. The system is just going to automatically trigger it off that asset ID, and PartsSource is going to concierge that entire warranty exchange process for you. Now, once you select OK there, it's going to give you the option of whether you want to keep shopping or whether you want to go directly to the shopping cart or the checkout process. The reason we do this is because PartsSource is a vendor aggregator, meaning that we have over 6,000 vendors inside the system. It allows you to cut fewer POs because you're able to order multiple parts at the exact same time. If you needed 3 parts from 3 different vendors for this repair, you could put them all in the shopping cart, we could procure them all at the same time, deliver one PO to PartsSource, and then PartsSource would be able to order all of it from the separate vendors, track and provide statuses individually, but you've only created one requisition and one PO with a single vendor. The same goes if you were going to go ahead and create a stock order, something where you needed to order 10 items. You're able to do all of that at once. You're able to order it all at once, drastically reducing the amount of effort the organization has when it comes to managing those requisitions, those POs, and the variety of invoices coming in. Our average PartsSource Pro customer consolidates over 300 vendors with PartsSource. That's a significant amount of labor when it comes to understanding exactly what is being done inside the organization. You're not doing those vendor ads anymore. You're not getting 300 different styles of invoices. When you need to follow up on an item, you're not calling 300 different places. You're able to come to one place, you have dedicated resources, and you'll be able to quickly identify the information you're looking for.
Beautiful. Thanks for that color there, Jason. So for the purpose of this demo, I'm just going to go straight through the checkout. And what this is going to do is, of course, take us to, that order summary here.
The checkout screen really is just going to be, it's going to be a screen that's going to allow us to review everything prior to passing it back into Nuvolo. This information is all going to be preloaded. We'll know who the user is. We'll have an approved set of ship-to addresses, so you don't have to worry about us accidentally or unintentionally shipping it to Kyle's house. You're going to be able to choose shipping priority. All of these items are going to be available right through the screen prior to bringing it back into Nuvolo.
Perfect. Yeah, and like Jason mentioned, right, if we had a number of different parts that we're ordering in this order, those would all populate in this list, and then, of course, populate themselves into different purchase order line items back within Nuvolo. So at this point, I'm going to close this process out and submit this order for PO. And now that's really the end in terms of what I was doing through the PartsSource platform. And now we're going to switch back to our work order within Nuvolo. Before I do that, Jason, anything else you want to add there, or continue on?
No, I guess the only thing that I would add is that aside from just through the website, we do have a mobile application as well. One of my favorite features is that it does allow you to utilize your camera. So when you can't find something inside the catalog and you want to submit a quote request, being able to use that to quickly take a couple of photos of a nameplate of that particular item, click submit, is something that does speed up the entire process of ensuring we quote you back the correct part as quickly as possible.
Fantastic, thank you. So now we're back in the work order. I simply reloaded my form so it populated with the purchase order at the bottom. So now if I scroll down to the bottom of this work order where we saw no purchase orders earlier, now we can see that one purchase order has been automatically created and certain information has been populated. So now we're going to go into the procurement workflow, right? So some of this information could possibly be, brought in from, of course, an integration like we talked about in the PowerPoint with one of your ERP systems. But I'm just going to fill out a couple data points here and then save my record. So of course, this is parts, and then you can see, right, your cost has been populated. You have a short description, so on and so forth. So I'm quickly going to save this and then scroll down, or I forgot my requested date, so I'm going to, of course, say today. And like I mentioned, a lot of this information could, of course, come in from your ERP system. But now I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of this PO where we have our line items. So dependent on the customer or the operation, the organization's workflows, we could have approvals at the overarching PO level. We could have approvals potentially at the line item level, which is where we built it out of the box. Because a lot of times these parts could come in independently, right? So if I would have ordered a number of different parts from the PartsSource platform, you would see a number of different line items here. So in this case, to close out this process, I'm of course going to come into my line item. You'll see the part, and this is one of the nice things that Jason mentioned earlier. 70% of the parts we order, we only do it once or twice a year. With Nuvolo and part of the out-of-the-box integration that we built, any part that you order from PartsSource, if it is not represented in my current part master inventory, that will get automatically added to that inventory for you. And that is a very important aspect of this integration. As you'll notice, all the financials have been added. And at this point, I'm going to say, this part has came in and it's been delivered. And then down at the bottom, of course, once it's been delivered, if you need to submit any sort of RGAs, anything like that, that can be done very easily. And the last thing I like to point out here is the actual workflow engine, right? So this workflow has automatically been completed, but this is a very nice feature of the platform where we can build these integrations, and you can see this one, or excuse me, these workflows. This one is built specific for PartsSource, but this can be very easily configured per customer, dependent on, for example, if you need a different cost level sort of approval, right? So
yeah, I think it's really, to that customizable ability of the way the programs work, this is something that PartsSource and Nuvolo will work with you on, to understand the needs of your individual organization, understand the personnel and people you have in place, how do you need it to work together, what are the systems that are involved, how do we play nice inside the world you have while utilizing these integrations to speed this up and improve the quality of the information. You saw how that part was automatically added into the Parts Master after it was brought in from PartsSource. That description isn't something that accidentally gets entered by a technician. You know, that was a very detailed description that described, you know, exactly what it was, dual hose, the millimeters. I mean, it's a level of information, it's a level of detail that if we ask 10 technicians to enter 10 descriptions, we get 10 different things. And this allows us to standardize the information as it comes in. We get an absolutely perfect part number, we get a perfect description, we get an accurate price, and it all happens right on the front end with the technician working inside of a work order, not working inside of an ERP or filling out a paper form or doing any of the other processes that exist there today. It's how do we standardize this process and improve the quality of data going into the CMMS at the very earliest level so that when you go to pull reports, when you go to look at information, you have an incredible level of confidence that not only is everything there, but it has been entered exactly the same with high quality data every time.
Perfect, thank you for that. So like I mentioned, I'm going to move the status of this line item to delivered, right? And that's important because you can, of course, add or receive these line items or have them delivered at different points, right? So once I update this, what it's going to do now is it's going to come back to my PO. So now I'm back in my overarching PO. You can see it's still in a status of requested. Now that's because we didn't want the PO to be explicitly built from the line item in case that, you know, things come in at different times. So at this point, we're going to say, all right, we've ordered our part, it's been delivered. Now we need to receive those parts and decide where they're going, right? So once you click receive, what that's going to do is it's going to open up a little UI. And what this does is it's basically saying, okay, well, what do you want to do with these 3 items that you just bought, right? So the first thing that we're going to do is add 1 or 2 of them, excuse me, to my biomedical engineering stores, right? So I'm going to add this to a stock room, and we're going to say we're going to add 2 of them. And then what we're going to do next is apply 1 of them to the work order. So here, and then click this button. And what that does is it's, of course, going to auto-populate that work order. And then we're going to finish off, since we had 3, we're going to add 1 of these parts to our work order and click OK. At this point, now that we've received the parts, you'll see that the status of this PO is automatically flipped to received. So now what I'm going to do is go back. We've received our parts. We've decided where we're putting them. Our inventory's been automatically updated from that UI. And I'm going to go back into my work order to close this out. So to finish this process, right, I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and you'll notice a couple new items. As you can see, our purchase order is still here, but what's been added is this work order itemized cost. So you can see the work order itemized cost has been added. The amount of this cost, since we only use 1, has been added to our inventory. So if I scroll up, and also if I need to punch my labor time, right, I would come in, click new, say I replaced, it took me an hour to replace that part. I could do that there as well. For the sake of time, I'm going to skip over that. And then you'll notice the financials have been updated as well. So then those financials are recorded on that work order. And then, of course, they flow downstream, right? They're going to flow to the asset. They're going to flow to the owning department. So you get a very quantified reporting to see exactly where your money is going. And the last thing I'm going to do at this point, oops, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, well, I'm sure what a lot of you are thinking about is what you'll be able to do with all of that information. Being able to actually look at where that spend is going, whether you're making a case for planning a replacement of a particular item, making a case to understand exactly, hey, at this age, a particular set of assets is costing too much for us to repair. Not only are we spending time, but we're spending money. How do we utilize this information to report upwards? Is an asset doing great? Hey, really, there's no reason to replace these particular set of assets. We're hardly spending anything on them as it is. This newfound information, this newfound ability to quickly pull this spend information and tie it directly to those assets is something that right now I know if any of you tried to implement or you have implemented, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of micromanagement. It's a lot of following up. It's a lot of cleaning data just to make sure that you're going to get halfway there. And if you do this, you're going to have high quality data that you can trust. And you're going to have a system that's going to be able to pump out reports and detailed information tied directly back to those assets.
Perfect. Yes. And so what I forgot to do there is do one thing, which is moving this work order to a state of close complete, right? And the reason I want to do this is because it's going to make new mandatory fields pop up. So it was in a state of open, work in progress, right? Dependent on the terminology of the industry, these fields are very, very flexible and easy to change. So now when I move this work order to a state of close complete, what you're going to notice is I have a couple mandatory fields denoted by the asterisk. Right, so of course I want to put in my problem cause. Many of our customers like making that field mandatory as well because it gives us insight into how our users, how our staff is actually using the system. So I've seen our customers pull a lot of great abnormal damage reports from this. so they can start knowing, which models are being abused from particular departments and from, and who is doing that, and what are the components of that device that may be having those issues, or people are having those issues using. So it's very beneficial for reporting. So the last thing I'm going to do is say on-site service, and of course fill out, well, when did I service this device? And I serviced this device today. At which point, that's all the mandatory fields I needed. And of course, I can save and close out this work order after, of course, I didn't do my pre-checklist. So that would just be, of course, closing this out in terms of making sure you've done your safety, electrical tests, so on and so forth. So in terms of Nuvolo, that is the end of this integration. I hope you all saw the efficiencies in this and the benefit of using these integrations between the PartsSource and Nuvolo platforms. So at this point, I'm going to stop my share, and Sarah, I'll turn it back over to your questions slide.
Great. Thank you, Jason and Kyle. At this time, if you have questions, please go ahead and submit via your control panel. There's a Q&A button, and you can type your question right there. So one question that has come in is, how long does an integration typically take?
Great
so
question.
Integration.
I think Jason, oh, go ahead, Jason, sorry.
No, you go first. I'll tag on.
Add some color if needed. So one of the benefits of this is in this partnership between Nuvolo and PartsSource is this is now out of the box for Nuvolo. So effectively, if you decide to go this route with the CMMS, this is already sitting there out of the box ready for you to use. And you just have to simply enter your PartsSource credentials into the Nuvolo application, and then you'll be connected. It really is that easy. It doesn't necessarily add a whole lot of time to any implementation. And Jason, I'll let you add any color that you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, really, that is nice. It is built directly inside the system. The main thing that we are going to do is just do a little bit of consultation work to understand exactly what your current process is, how we need it to fit together. But once it's in place, the reality is we're able to provide a set of credentials and train people very quickly. It'll just depend on the complete nature of the integration we're going to put in place. But if it is a simple integration where we're just launching and connecting you through the way we've shown it today, it's something that we can get set up in a day or so.
Great, thank you. We have another question. What happens in the process after you hit submit PO? Is the part purchased or put in a queue?
So I'm going to jump on here. The reality of that answer is going to be a little bit more complex. What we are going to do is understand exactly how your organization works. If we are going to need to create a requisition inside of your ERP and it's going to go through an approval process, we can do that. If it's something where POs are going to be managed out of Nuvolo, it can happen much quicker. If it is going to be purchased and we're going to receive a blanket PO, we can process it that way. The system's really designed to be as flexible as possible to fit in not only with the needs of clinical engineering, but with your organization as a whole. So that answer will be a little bit more complex depending on your individual configuration.
So another question, how many health systems are actually integrating CMMS and PartsSource?
So if we're talking about, so this is the big coming out party for the Nuvolo and PartsSource integration. So really what we're looking now is to show it to the world. Obviously, if you're going to be at AMI or MD Expo in the near future, come by, say hello, see it in person. We have a number of customers, joint customers that are already getting set up. But the reality is this is the way the industry is going, and I think everybody would like to have this.
Yeah, and just to add on to that a little bit, yeah, this integration was released in Nuvolo's Fortuna Patch 1. It just came out like last month. It was certified by Servicenow. So yeah, there's a lot of customers slated to start using it. But like Jason said, if you'd like to see it in action, we're always at all the shows. So look forward to seeing you guys all there.
Okay. Have another question. What about depot repair process?
So PartsSource has over 700 depot repairs that are flat rate, no hassle warranty, preloaded into the catalog. One of the nice things about the way we manage those is that because they are flat rate and they don't have that variable cost, they are treated inside the catalog just like any other item. The difference is going to be that when PartsSource receives the PO, we are going to send you a shipping label rather than sending you a part. Kyle can speak to how that's managed inside Nuvolo, but the interaction going back and forth with PartsSource is going to be exactly the same. We'll treat those depot repair items just like we do any other item. We do it a little bit differently once that PO comes through.
Yeah, and then what that might look like from the Nuvolo side, right, depending if you're utilizing the integration to that level, would really be up to the customer, right? I've seen some of our customers use the use of things like substates on the work orders and assets for that, right? So if you submit a depot repair through PartsSource, that can of course flip the substate of that work order to depot repair and the substate of an asset to depot repair, so you know where that is, and of course you can then report on all of that in real time.
Great. So there's another question. How does the quote process work?
So there's a number of items that are going to be outside of the catalog, or even if they're there and you can't find them, we don't want you spending a lot of time digging through a catalog trying to find an item that you're not familiar with or you can't easily identify. We have a technical team on our side that is going to call into technical support, wait on hold, listen to the disco music until they get somebody. And the way that it works is you can either start it through the mobile application by clicking request a quote, take some photographs and submit it through. Or if you get through the catalog, we start the punch out through Nuvolo, we can't find our item. On every single page inside the catalog, it says trouble finding your part. When you click trouble finding your part, it will bring up a little box where you can just enter in the normal information that you would tell a vendor over the phone, serial number, description, whatever the normal stuff is. All you have to do is go ahead and enter that information, click submit. It comes back to our team. You can go do other things. You can go triage the next piece of equipment. You can go return a piece of equipment. You can continue to repair another piece of equipment. And on average, under an hour, you'll receive an email back from PartsSource letting you know their quote's available. And all you have to do is you go back to the punch out. It'll be available in a quote queue. You will add it to the shopping cart just like you would anything out of the catalog. And it's going to flow back into Nuvolo just like it would anything else. So the only difference is you request a quote rather than finding it inside the catalog. After we quote it back, it's going to flow back through and have all the same features, functionality that Kyle showed you with those items that we found in the catalog.
Yeah, and I have nothing else to add there. That was pretty spot on.
Thank you.
Okay. Question, do you get logged out as you're waiting for a quote to come back in?
No, the session is going to remain open. You can close the window. Everything in the PartsSource side can happen in the background. You could leave the window up. You can close the window. You can go do something else. You don't have to worry about logging out or closing anything. Once it's submitted to PartsSource, everything on our end is going to continue to run. You can shut down your computer immediately after, and we're going to be able to take it from there, and you'll receive an email as soon as that's done.
Good. Jason or Kyle, any final remarks?
No, I just would like to, thank everybody for taking the time to use this as an education session today. And I think both parties really appreciate everybody who's on, and we look forward to seeing you guys out there.
Okay. Actually, we had one more question come in asking about the back order process.
Part of the communication, not only does PartsSource provide, communication to the technician level of, when a PO is received and the order is submitted, we have additional communications on when an order is shipped. Over 99% of all of our orders are going to have tracking numbers on them as well. That communication does extend as well to back order. So if any particular line item on one of these requests were to be back ordered, not only would you receive an email notification, but that is a status for that individual line item as well, that you would be able to see that it is back ordered with an expected ship date. So we do manage it the same way as if you're familiar with ordering through PartsSource and seeing back order notifications today. That is the same way that it's going to be managed, both from an email communication or text message if you set it up, as well as individual line item statuses.
Good. All right. Well, thank you, Jason and Kyle, for your time today. Really appreciate the walkthrough of the demo of the integration. And as a reminder, all participants will receive a follow-up email that includes a recording of today's demonstration. Thank you all for your time, and we'll now end the webinar.
Thanks, everybody.